Okay, so I want to make a video, but I don't know what I want to talk about. I don't know why I want to do it. Um, uh, every time I turn on my phone and I try to film myself, um, I've realized that I have like to imagine who I'm talking to through the video, because otherwise it makes no sense. When you're alone, you don't talk. Like you have to, if you're talking, it means it implies that you're talking to someone. And when you're making a video, you're alone, then you have to come up with other, like, automatic, your mind just like, you automatically know who you're talking to, or you have to consciously imagine who you're talking to. So right now, for example, like, I know my mind is automatically coming up with some like some imaginary audience, like people on YouTube who are listening to this. And I'm also realizing right now that um, my mind is coming up with many assumptions about these people, these imaginary people, because I don't even know if I'm gonna upload this. Probably because now I've like invested 2 minutes of my time and energy, so I want the rewards, I want the likes and the views, and and all of my assumptions on who's gonna listen to this directly translates into feeling a certain way. So just before this, I did two other like videos. So I was just filming myself with my phone, and I was just wondering, okay, what's happening when I'm doing that? And so I was just like sitting in front of my phone and not saying anything, just looking at myself on the screen, and just like really like feeling into my face and the tension in my body, because every time I'm about to film something, I feel I feel some sort of negative emotion. I feel directly, I feel anxious. I feel I also can feel like the shame almost of who I am all of a sudden, because when I'm alone, uh, I do not feel ashamed of who I am because no one's looking. And as soon as I turn on my phone and I imagine that there's people who are listening to this or who are going to listen to this, which is the same, because my mind is creating it right now. So I do feel the things, the reality of this right now. Then I automatically, there's a shift in my state of being, and it's very clear. It goes from rather relaxed or neutral to uh, to a sort of tension that I feel. And I notice this tension I feel almost every time I'm with someone. With, and even like intimate people like my brother, my parents. If it's someone that I don't know, it's even worse. Then I feel this extreme tension. And this tension comes from having the fear to just be um myself without like modifying who I am and modifying what I say and my behavior. And the reason why is that every time I am myself, I feel shame. So the tension I feel comes from like wanting to avoid this emotion. Because whenever I feel this shame, like I feel physical sensations. Like right now my heart is beating faster, I'm sweating already, and like I'm already sweating. as if, yeah. um I also feel like my face tense up, um and I feel kind of shaky, and I hate that because this is typically what I have always wanted. I've always, this is the stuff that I do not want people to see. So basically there's a fear of the other person, and there's the big, like, this shame of the fear, and this wanting to avoid that the other person sees that and notices that I'm fearful of her, because and why that is. So where does the fear come from? I have no idea. It's like completely automatic. It's like boom, it comes in directly. Shit. My grandpa is coming. Oui, papy. Oui. Non, pas tout de suite. Je descendrai plus tard parce que j'ai pas très faim là. This is so funny. Had to happen. And so it's like there's this fear, and then there's an automatic shame that comes in. And the shame comes from the fear that the other person, the other people who are listening to me, realize how fearful I am. And that's where the shame comes in. So I'm really like using this to try to understand it, to try like to word it, and to try to understand not necessarily where it's coming from, but like what is going on. Because like the understanding of emotions of like most people, like most people I know and most people I listen to have such a really superficial understanding of emotions, because emotions, I've realized they've really come like a layer cake, and you never just feel one emotion. What you do is you feel a whole, like there's a gift and the wrapping around the gift, and another wrapping around the wrapping, and you feel a whole, like a whole set of emotions that are like that are like that, like layers upon layers. And in order to realize that, you really have to come back to your body and witness to what's going on. So you really have to like want to like look at something that is painful, because it's like one of the worst things that I know of, that I feel, is this shame of who I am and what I feel. It's horrible. It's something that I don't know when exactly it started to be such, like, so apparent, and like when I started to have like this fear plus shame of the fear in my life. I think it probably started when I was 15 years old. But when I say that, like, I had social anxiety, but I think it might have like started before that. Um and yeah, like right now I really have to just like be willing for people to see how fearful I am and how ashamed I am. And this means I have to let go of my attachment to appear a certain way, and to have people to like admire me and like me, which is really, I've realized, also one of my biggest goals. One of my biggest motivators in life is to have people uh, approve of who I am and what I'm doing. Like big motivator. And every time I go out of my where I live, and I'm, for example, I am on a, like on the beach, for example, right now in summer. Like the main thing I feel is always related to this fear plus this shame, and maybe even other emotions. Maybe it's because right now it sounds like it's two layers. It sounds like there's the fear, there's the wanting to hide the fear, so the shame. And I think that's it, but I'm not sure. I think it's probably like more multi-layered than that. But right now, like that's how I understand what I'm feeling right now. Yeah. So I think this is probably good to listen to if you have some sort of like really 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 deep like people pleasing disorder, um like me. If you are really really attached to what people think of you, if you're really really ashamed of who you are, and it's not even who you are, it's more like it's like it's something that has been programmed in your mind during your childhood, and now it makes you feel a certain way. It's assumptions you have, unconscious assumptions you have about people. So now every time there's people, it feels like a threat to you, like you have to appear a certain way for these people to like you, otherwise you're gonna feel bad. And that's not who you are. That is a tendency, a mechanism that is modifying how you feel and what you think. But generally speaking, we say, okay, I'm ashamed of who I am, because it's just quicker to say that, even though it's not true, because it's not who you are. It's what you do. And because you do it so automatically, so quickly, and so it's and the whole mechanism is so unconscious, it's easier to just say like that's me, right? So the best way I have found to really like deal with this shit that that just determines like how I feel and what I do and what I say, and that really like crazy like just influences how I feel almost all the time. The best thing I can do and that you can do is to just like observe it, really try to understand it. I think trying to understand it, having a curiosity for it is important. um and really having the willingness to let go of really this drug. It's like a drug because it feels so good, this drug of like people liking you and people seeing you in a certain way. So you also have to accept. So first off, you have to become conscious that you are basically modifying your behavior in order to have people look at you a certain way, so that then you can feel a certain way. Then you're like, they're looking at me like that. They are thinking this about me. So now I'm relaxed. Now I like it. I don't know why I like it, but I love it. I love it when like I'm not personally. I love it when I'm on the beach and there's women looking at me. Not too many women, not too beautiful. Otherwise, I feel stressed and anxious, which is so fucked up. But if there's just the right amount of like beautiful like beauty of the woman, and she's just alone and she's looking at me, then I feel good. And this is the exact feeling, this feeling I'm talking about. This is the thing you have to be willing to go away, to lose. And you really have to be willing to feel bad and be and stop resisting like who you are. Okay? So you go, the best way to do this is like either I don't even need to go in a social setting. I can just turn on my phone. There's no one watching right now. There's no one thinking anything about me, and I already feel like the whole range of emotion. And just being in my body. So right now, I really try to stay in my body and to know, don't not like try to convince anyone to do like sophisticated stuff. My ear feels often when I do these videos. Also, I've realized that so I sweat a lot, like I'm super My voice is shaky, my body's shaky, and my ear is going crazy. Like my ear, it's often my left ear, and it's going like this inside of it. Like not at the beginning of the video, but now it's doing like. So right now, also what I feel is I feel like okay, 15:15. I've talked for 15 minutes. I haven't said anything important. And now I feel like I have to do something. I feel like I have somehow to like I somehow I have to deliver something for someone, right? And so first reaction is like fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck you. Whoever you are out there, and you're like, deliver me something. No, fuck you, because this is my video and I do whatever the fuck I want. And so that's generally, if you have social anxiety, that's a very natural reaction, because you realize that it's almost as if people have the power over your state of being. So they're here with their remote controller, and they say something to you. They say like, I don't like you. I don't like what you think. I don't agree at all with this. You're so stupid. And it's when they say that, it's as if they had a remote control and they just like drop a button, and then you feel like shit. You feel like, you know. And so the first, a very natural reaction is like, you're so fucking angry at these people because they are basically determining how you feel. It's almost like they're torturing you, If they could only just like you for who you are and agree with you and just don't say anything that triggers you, then you wouldn't have to feel that bad. So this is also super important. Like, you have to realize that there's this anger towards these people. Like, you hate them. You fucking hate them. You are so angry at them. And you have to acknowledge that you feel that you feel this way in order for this to go away, ultimately. So right now I feel that, and it's funny because I know for a fact that these people are only there to teach me how much I hate myself, how much I'm not okay with myself, how fearful I am of people, because I believe that we attract the exact right things in every moment in our life, because it's God sending us challenges so that we get to feel these emotions which are a reflection of what we think unconsciously, and then we get to basically have like a sneak peek of what's in our minds. Otherwise, you don't know what you think in your mind. You don't know all the unconscious stuff that's going on in your mind. You don't get to see it because it would be overwhelming. So you only get to see 5% of what you think, or 1%, and 95 to 99%, which determines almost like all of your behavior, all of the results that you get in your life. You don't get to have a direct direct view of it, right? So that's why in this reality, in this construct, in this, people call it 3D, third density, we get to have people who are everywhere, and they get to show us like what we think about them and our relationship and how we relate to them, and then we feel a certain way, which is why you feel different when you're alone and when you're with people, especially when you have social anxiety. Then you feel then you feel horrible when you are with people. And this is for everyone. This is not just for people who have social anxiety. When you have social anxiety, it becomes like so physical and so intense that you cannot have and lead a normal life, just being with people around you. But literally everyone I know and I see have the same fears that I do, just like on a micro level. Not as much. It doesn't impact them physically. Like, it doesn't invalidate them physically. Sometimes I am so fearful when I'm like in public transport, for example, or somewhere like, It's a long time I haven't done improv theater anymore, like almost a year probably. But that's when like it's almost like invalidating, because I feel so overwhelmed physically that I cannot function. I can literally, it's too much. I cannot function properly. I cannot think properly. I cannot just like do what I would like to do. Just like think and say what I think, just regular stuff, be a human being. I don't get to do that in certain very intense moments. But everyone feels that. And the good thing about like having such disturbed um emotions and behavior is once you start healing them and understanding them, you start seeing them in everyone else, and also you start having compassion for it. So I don't like but the compassion thing, it comes really really at the very end, not at the beginning. So um yeah. Now I'm bored. Now I feel like I'm depleted energetically. I don't want to do this anymore. Ugh. Right now, I'm doing exactly what I want to see on YouTube. I want to see people who are radically honest about what they think and how they feel right now, and say, like, and just open up. And most people are not ready for this, because you have to know, like me, that there is a benefit to that. I know there's a benefit for me to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But I'm so convinced now that the healing occurs when I'm honest with myself, and when I am super vulnerable, when I let really like people look at my shit. Then I know that healing occurs, because I've read about it and because I've witnessed it within myself. So you cannot expect like too many people to do that either. 22, 22. uh, yeah. So this was 22 minutes that were healing for me. I sweated a lot. I I didn't like how I felt, how I feel. I don't like how I feel right now. It's gonna be a lot better when I just will turn off my phone, and just like yeah, go out or whatever. As long as I'm not on a beach with people looking at me, and literally like uh, yeah, it just feels like you're a slave of other people when you're anxious about like for no apparent reason, but really unconsciously it's because you fear what other people think of you and that they might reject you. It feels like you're a slave because you don't directly control how you feel, and I don't even control like physically. I don't control myself physically. It's almost like I'm like that, and I can't control it. So it really feels like other people are controlling me and how I feel, and not just how I feel, but what my body does. Like, and this is like where the anger comes in. I'm so angry at like other people, and and really like right now, for example, if you're like, but it's not other people's fault and all. Like this is obvious. Obviously, it's not other people's fault because of like other people are not responsible for how you feel. But it's so important to still acknowledge the anger you have and be like, fuck them, just fuck you. You don't have to say it in their face, but at least say it when you're in your room and be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, because anger, I feel like, also is one of the emotions that is the hardest to process because we feel so guilty. So guilty. So now it's no longer fear, shame, it's more like anger, guilt. So I feel a lot of anger towards my grandparents, my parents, my brother, my sister, and everyone in society. Donald Trump. No, not anymore because now I like him. Bill Gates. um and now also, like, I also see satanic symbolism everywhere. I think I just saw it on a book. And so anger is so hard because we really think that it is wrong to be angry at people because it's not their fault. But just because it's not their fault doesn't mean you shouldn't be angry at them. You know, uh, in order to let go of an emotion, for it to heal, you have to look at it and be willing to acknowledge that it's not true that it shouldn't be here. For no emotion, no thought whatsoever, no matter how racist, how feminist, how hateful it is, you know, no matter what you think and what you feel, it is not true that you shouldn't think that and that you shouldn't feel that way. It's not true. It is utter bullshit. It's a lie. It's such a lie. The reason is that it's not really your fault if you're thinking certain thoughts. They're not really your thoughts. They've been programmed into you after decades of social conditioning, after decades of like watching TV, listening to other people say things and thinking that it's true and all that. So if you feel anger, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to look at it and be like, okay, I feel angry. Okay, fuck, I hate it because now I feel so bad because I don't want to hate the people I'm hating. Super important. That's the second emotion. Anger, guilt of anger, you know? And sometimes, so anger at someone else and directly guilt and then anger at yourself. Because now you're angry at someone and you think you're wrong for being angry at them. So now you're angry at yourself because you're angry at them. And also you're angry at yourself maybe because you feel guilty. And you're like, fuck that. Why am I guilty? I'm not guilty. Why, like, why do I feel guilty when this person, like, I'm rightfully angry at them? So that's another scenario. So that's when you're angry at someone and you think that you have the right to be angry at them, which you always do. But sometimes sometimes you feel like you do not have the right to do it, which is not true. Still important to look at the emotion. Okay, right now I feel like I do not have the right to be angry at that person, right? So happens. So I'm bringing this up because like this is like what I feel right now, and this is like stuff that I feel often. And the only way that I am healing is by observing it. So I go back to the body. I really try to go like out of thought loops, which are try to like understand. They try to rationalize and they try to encompass the whole thing and really understand it. And the understanding is not gonna come if you are too emotional. Understanding comes afterwards, after you have processed the emotion. So in, when you're in the emotion, you can have these insights, but don't feed too much your thoughts and go back to the body where it feels bad. That's where really like the storm is going on, and you stay with it. You feel in your belly. You feel like and you feel like you feel what's there. And most times it just feels horrible. So it's easier to think like, oh, it's their fault or it's my fault, which is the same. Oh yeah, that's the thing also. When you hate yourself or when you're belittling yourself or when you think it's your fault, it's equally as stupid, as not true, and as selfish as thinking that it's other people's fault for how you feel, you know? We because we tend to think like okay, if I belittle myself, it's okay. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's natural, you know, when it arises in you and you're like, oh, I hate myself. Don't like add to it. Observe it. Try to just observe it, but don't like add to it. Don't be like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm really such a cunt. I'm just like ah. That's because it's obviously not true, and it's selfish. It's selfish because The only reason why you do that, that's something I just realized like a couple of hours ago. The only time I am belittling myself, and shaming myself and being like it's my fault and all, it's because I believe that there's someone who's gonna come and he's gonna tell me like, no, you're wrong, that's not true, you're a good person, and you're wrong, okay. So it's basically like a sort of tendency and mechanism to fish for compliments. It's so I thought exactly this a couple of hours ago. Like it's like someone who's on Instagram, a beautiful woman who's on Instagram, and she's like, "Oh, I'm too fat," and she's so beautiful, and she's just fishing for compliments. So what she's doing is she's belittling herself, um, not out of love for other people or out of honesty, but in fact because she wants love from other people, but she's too ashamed to admit because shame is too painful. So she's too ashamed to admit that what she wants is love from other people, as if they were her parents who didn't nourish her enough and give her enough love. I mean, it's super painful to like acknowledge that because it means you're still a kid and you're just a baby that needs love. It's so painful to admit that. And every time you belittle yourself, it's because you want other people to give you love and be like, no, that's not true. No, you're beautiful. You're not who you say you are. You're not who you think you are. You're just so much greater than that. And as long as you are playing this game of belittling yourself, um, first off, people can feel it. So if people are hypocrites, they're gonna say like, oh, they're gonna come and say like, no, that's not true, because they want love from you. So they think that by saying that, the beautiful woman on Instagram will be like, oh, thank you so much. Now you can fuck me, and that's why they're doing it. But if you have honest people around you and people who are actually interesting and who love themselves, they're gonna feel that and they're gonna be like, ugh, okay, just like first take care of yourself, grow a little bit, start loving yourself, and then I want to be your friend and hang around, but not now. Every time I feel like someone is saying something for me to give them a compliment, I'm like, ugh, no, fuck that. I'm not saying anything. They're like, oh, my life is so shitty. I'm such a bad person. And I'm just next to them and I'm like, if you say so, fine. I'm not gonna give you the love that you need to give to yourself. Because if we keep like giving false love to each other because it's not true love, then we're not gonna be